He was the fastest either 8th or ninth graders. You can see Grant Fisher doing low fives with everybody, which is kind of a very, very cool thing for him to do. The American record holder, of course, at 5 and 10. But Mantecan is one to watch, Paul, to see how well he and his teammates from Miami Havana recover from that kind of, I guess you could say, long trip that they had to take to get to the starting line here.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for a couple of their principal athletes, most notably Joshua Ruiz, who was third in this race a year ago. He had some trouble in the final stretches of that state meet, stumbling but still getting across the line in 8th position. The whistle's blown, the gun is up, and the racing is underway in Cary, North Carolina, 2023 Nike Cross Regionals Southeast.
And I'm glad you mentioned Josh Ruiz because he's a Florida signee, so he's headed to the University of Florida in Gainesville in the fall. He was the #1 sophomore back in the NXR in 2021 when he finished 4th overall. He was the #2 junior when he finished 3rd at NXR Southeast last year. He was the Florida 3A cross-country champion in 2021 and 2022. But you wonder, Paul, if perhaps he's held something back as a veteran for the big races like this. And of course, he's joined by his two brothers, Joseph and Justin. Joseph was 5th in the state championship, Justin 6th, and as you mentioned, Joshua was 8th with that stumble.
Now, we've talked about how good the conditions here in Cary, North Carolina are on this November Sunday. As part of that reason why you'll see this gator shot where the gator will remain next to the runners and not be following the lead pack, unfortunately, because of and you can see it there, the dust just blowing up among the runners here in the early going. So we're trying to do what we can to keep that course in good condition. So we'll draw up into the sky from our sky cam here and be able to follow some of the early going. We'll have splits coming through at the 2K and 3.2K mark, and then on the left side of your screen where those live results will be populating during the course of the race, we'll list for you the individuals that are making up all the teams vying for a spot at Nike Cross Nationals here in 2022. But for a soccer park, this becomes very much a park-like setting for cross-country racing very early in the race.
I was saying in some of the earlier races, if I was a cross-country runner, this would be kind of almost my ideal course. You get to run on this beautiful wooded path, which is shaded, if in fact, it's too warm, which it's not today, of course. It's relatively flat, Paul, and it's a pretty hard surface, so you're getting good return when you run. So it's almost ideal. And you feel like you're out in nature. One thing I did want to point out, from this drone shot, look for those orange jerseys of Miami Havana because they are very distinguishable. And we should see a bunch of those Miami Havana jerseys really within the top 30 or 40 runners. But it doesn't appear as if anybody has made a break yet, Paul. And I do believe this could be one of those races like we saw in one of the regionals last week where we could have 5 across leading into the finish.
So we move down to one of our static cameras here, and Noah Valio from Raleigh figuring prominently there in the middle of the lead pack as that dust behind the runners that's kicked up by the leaders kind of make you run through a fog here in the early going. 3 minutes of racing into this boys championship Southeast NXR in North Carolina.
Paul, we're going to get our first split at the 2K. I'm expecting a sub 6-minute split. I also saw Joshua Ruiz in that front group as well. So maybe he really is holding something back for this race, and we could see a really good performance by the Miami Havana team if he, in fact, moves up from being #4 on the team of the state championship to being #1 on the team. And, of course, with Mantecan, who is just an incredible talent. Last year, as a 9th grader, was 3rd in the Florida 3A 3,200 meter championships and 30th at NXR Southeast last year. But what I thought was really interesting, he ran with such moxie at the NXN championship. Not only the first 8th grader across the line, but he was the first 8th or 9th grader across the line. You can see Ruiz 12:78 right there in front, along with Noah Valio.
So they set the early pace here as the racing is into the closing in on the first mile complete. Again, 5,000 meters the distance for both the girls and the boys championship races. We've seen such phenomenal performances already this regional season, Tom, and you mentioned Manticon as one of the younger athletes in this field. That has been one of the big stories. We come off a day yesterday where we saw an 8th grader, Gianna Raymer, out of New Mexico, win the Southwest Girls Championship, and there were underclassmen making up most of that top 10. So youth being served here is one of the storylines in 2023.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, what I noticed from this, Paul, in this particular race is the pace is not particularly fast. If it was, we'd see a lot more separation than we're seeing right now. This is an enormous lead pack. So I would imagine it's a very, very comfortable pace. And at some point, somebody's going to get a little anxious and make a move, but we still should see probably a sub-6 through the 2K.
Yeah, picked out Keegan Smith from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's up among the leaders. Tommy Latham, who you talked about, out of Atlanta, Georgia, the 6A champ the last couple of years. And again, we'll have timing mats at the 2K mark, and then those individual standings will populate the left side of your screen. And then in real time, which is kind of the fun part of our live stats here throughout the regionals, is the ability to see the real-time adjusted scoring for the teams, in which that changes in a dynamic fashion as they'll pull out the individual unattached runners and then put all of the teams in a descending order list, and the first 5 of your team across the line will be given a score for their placing, and the top 5 obviously are the scoring teams in the context of the team race. Looks like they've come through that 2K mark, Tom, at 6:06. Christopher Nunn, Robert Romano. But check that back. I'm updating a different set of results there. Apologize. So we're still waiting for that 2K split to populate our board. Yeah, Keegan Smith, right.
And Jack Bowen from McCallie. And McCallie, of course, playing a big part in this team battle. Noah Valio in 3rd, Tommy Latham in 4th, so people that we expect to be up there. Jack Anstrom 5th, Colin Eckerman down in 8th, Joshua Ruiz in 10th, Mateo Tanos in 12th. And looking very carefully here at the team scores, and Miami Havana has definitely got quite a margin through that intermediate split, Paul. They're up by 80 points over Vestavia Hills.
Yeah, those team scores will populate here shortly. Miami Havana looking to advance back to Nike Cross Nationals. Many considered this team to be better than a year ago, one of the best high school teams ever to come out of the state of Florida. Not a place where potentially long-distance running is thought to be sort of the heritage there, but making a statement here in the early going. Look at that dominant team score performance as their placings are 5th, 13th, 18th, 19th, and 39th. That gets them to the total of 94 points. Vestavia Hills and West Knoxville knotted up here. And again, these are unofficial scores. They'll change dynamically as the rest of the results are inputted into the system. But a very good battle here all the way down into 4th position for that 2nd automatic spot to NXN.
Yeah, Macaulay Ridge is going to have to get on their horse and ride it a little bit here. But we've seen this happen before where teams can jump other teams pretty quickly. The surprise here is Vestavia Hills, but a lot more racing to go. And another one of the Miami Havana runners just going past us in that orange jersey. This is an interesting part of the course, Paul, because you really have 2 tracks you can take, dirt or grass. And you see a lot of runners will take the dirt, but some will in fact go high, like this gentleman here, and take the grass part of the course. So it's also very narrow, so if you're far behind, you have to do a lot of weaving, bobbing and weaving to get up. That's why it's so critical to get out and be in that lead pack. And again, the pace, very comfortable, you can tell, because there are still a number of athletes that are in that lead group.
There you see Miami Havana's spread of 10.1 seconds between their top runner, Josh Ruiz, currently in 10th overall, but for the purposes of the team scoring, he is in 4th place, and that's 67 points. And the comparison with Vestavia Hills, can see the spread a little bit higher for them, but still in that position of being second through 2 kilometers. We'll have another split coming up here shortly at 3.2 kilometers as they're out on a different stretch of the course, kind of using the outside edges of Wake Med Soccer Park here for the second mile.
Yeah, Paul, and I'm looking for a split of about 9:45 or so. So I think those splits may be populating here momentarily. But it's still a very healthy lead pack. What's interesting is the 3 Ruiz brothers for Miami Havana are all ahead of Mantecon. Mantecon ran really hard to get that second place finish behind Patrick Leon in the state championship. So you wonder if perhaps the state championship took a little bit out of Mantecon, or whether he's just kind of going to make a move later here in the race. But the Ruiz is 1, 2, and 3 right now for Miami Havana. So James Partlow and Keegan Smith and Noah Valio, Paul, all together. Braden Marshall, Cameron Davis, Ethan Edgeworth, Gabe Schmid, they're all right up there. In fact, the top 12, Paul, are separated by 1 second, and then it's down to Joshua Ruiz, who is still very much in the hunt. If you ask me who has the best kick in this race, I would say Noah Valio. When you look, he's a 153.69 800 guy. He was third in the state championships in North Carolina in the 4A division in the 800. And then Ethan Edgeworth, a 154 800 man, 4:11.96 miler. By the way, Edgeworth has won 6 of his 8 races this year. So I would look to Valio and Edgeworth, currently in 3rd and 6th, although everybody is really closely packed together here as the kickers.
Well, keep an eye on some strategy here in the closing stretches. They're now back into the dense part of this wooded area, and then they'll kind of emerge out of the dust and the density of that forested area, and then up back onto the soccer fields for a fabulous race to the finish for home and a championship here in 2023. You kind of see the finish line right when you emerge from that wooded area, Tom, and it's going to be just kind of we saw it last year with Rutherford. That's kind of how the race unfolded.
Indeed, that there's a very long backstretch, and when you get towards the end of that backstretch, it's a very short straightaway to the finish line, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of company for these runners for the first place finish. Now, Miami Havana, Paul, has a monster lead, 113 points, but our 3 favorites now, 1, 2, 3 in the order that we thought they'd finish in: Havana, McCauley, and West Knoxville. And at the top box, you still see there are a lot of guys in this race that are in the hunt, and not that much time left to go. We have under maybe about 2.5 minutes most left in this race.
Yeah, you see the spread for Miami Havana. Evan Torres trying to hold on to that 5th position, but losing 11 places between 2K and 3.1K. He's now back in 80th position. Mantecon, who was performing so well just a couple of days ago, the Florida runner-up, is back there in the 4th spot on the order for the leaders, Miami Havana. They've got a bit of a cushion right now against Ridge Runners, but trying to hold on to that top spot and get a automatic invitation back to NXN here in 2023. High above the race course, you see we're down to just 5 individuals in that lead pack as they begin to realize they're in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, you got to love this if you're a cross-country fan. This thing is really unfolding now. Right about now, Paul, is where the big moves seem to be made. We've had 2 there at the front that have seemingly broken away. And that's that long backstretch I was talking about.
Yeah, see some fans trying to race these runners to the finish line area. We'll see here in a moment when we'll pick them up coming into the final stretches of the race if we can identify these runners up in the front of the pack. But you can see some separation now with the leader through 5th position as we close in on the final stretch of Nike Cross Regionals Southeast.
And that gap is growing, Paul. So I think the dramatics that I was kind of expecting aren't going to happen here. This is a commanding victory that we're having, and look at the number of people lining that course as he heads into the home straight.
Noah
Valio.
Valio is in the control position. Berkeley Nance there behind him, but Noah Valio of Raleigh is the champion here in the Southeast. Nance
Well, he
and
made an impressive
Latham
move.
coming through here in short order as they also come across the line with Nance, Latham, Partlow, who was leading after 3 and 2.2 kilometers. Ethan Edgeworth finishing 5th, Colin Eckerman in 6th. And now we keep an eye as all these athletes, as they say each and every year, finish on empty, as we'll also await the team scores here. Great race from Valio.
Most definitely. He made a move a little bit sooner than I thought he would, because if anybody should be confident about his finishing speed, it's Noah Valio. Really impressive race in the time. Super time, 14:40.8. In fact, we had 11 guys under 15 minutes. Just a sensational run. And kudos to Berkeley Nance, who moved up quite a bit during the course of this race. The 3-time Virginia State champion just kind of picked up a lot of ground in that last part of the course. And then Tommy Latham, the top finishing junior, finishing 3rd, he also came up towards the end of the race, Paul. So a very interesting race. Valio is obviously going to be a contender to win at Glendoveer in a couple of weeks for sure, the way he looked.
Different kind of course setup, obviously, in Portland for NXN at Glendoveer Golf Course, but the confidence of winning on this very fast course today in Cary, North Carolina, things looking good for Valio as he heads into the latter stages of the championship season. Still waiting for our team scores to be updated. Miami Havana's top runner was Josh Ruiz. He finished in 15th position, as Joseph Ruiz was 2nd. But now let's hear from the winner of the Southeast region with Grant Fisher.
Right, thanks, Paul. We're out here at the course. I'm here with the boys champion. We spoke yesterday, and you seemed very confident. Did anything surprise you out there? Got the W, but any big surprises?
I mean, those guys were there the whole time, pressing the pace. So, I mean, not really any surprise. I expected it to be a very competitive race, and it was. So.
Yeah, you've been on quite the tear this year. You know, you had the state meet not too long ago. We have NXR today. You're moving on to NXN. What are the feelings going into that?
Oh, I'm just excited. I didn't think going into this year I'd have a chance of making it, and now I feel like I proved myself wrong, and I just got to go out there, give it all I got. Got to give myself a chance.
Yeah, man. So this will be the first time at the national stage.
Yep.
You know, that's a big feeling. You know, has anyone given you big advice on what to expect out there, or do you want me to do that?
I mean, yeah, I have expectations of what it is. I've been told by my coach what it's going to be like, but I mean, mainly I was focusing on this race just to get there, and now the thought will be on that. So.
Dude, fantastic attitude, fantastic job today. This was a great day to run, and you crushed it.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations, and I hope to see you catch a W at NXN. That'd be awesome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right, great job.
Yeah,
Hey, back to you guys.
All right, hug it out, Grant. You did a nice job there getting some perspective there from our winner, as Noah Valio came in with confidence and leaves Cary, North Carolina with a ticket punched to Nike Cross Nationals in 2023. Tom, you mentioned you think he could be a factor in Portland, and you know I liked his approach. Just needed to get there today. That was the goal, not thinking ahead.
Well, I thought it was funny when Grant offered advice, he didn't take it. He said, I can give you some advice on how to run. But definitely Grant Fisher had the best athlete interview I've seen. And to your point about Valio, yeah, I mean, Danny Simmons is going to be the prohibitive favorite when they get to the starting line. But Valio sure looked good out there today. And you never really know what's going to happen until they line him up and go, Paul, as you know all too well.
Danny Simmons was the winner yesterday in the Southwest region, the runner-up from a year ago at Nike Cross Nationals, perhaps watching his competition here on runnerspace.com runnerspace.com on this Sunday in November as we see some of the final athletes cross the line. The team score is still unofficial, but Miami Havana, I think it's safe to say, will be moving on once again to Nike Cross Nationals in 2023, unofficially with 82 points. The battle for second a little bit closer, as we'll wait to see how it plays out. Vestavia Hills, Shamrock Track Club, and the Wallace boys are all in the mix there, as we will see a few scenes from high above from our drone coverage here in Cary, North Carolina. That would have been quite an entertaining cross-country course, Tom, if they had laid some turf there.
I think your point is very well taken.